Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Livest podcast. And with my podcast, I know a lot of people used to me interviewing artists and talking to a lot of people in the music industry, but 2020 is different. I want to do something different, and I wanted to talk about some real issues on my podcast. Also, bring other people in who can shine light from their aspect. So, first of all, I wanted to expand my podcast and talk about, like I said, more issues that affect us. Me, of course, me being a black man in America, it's a lot of issues that not only affect me, but my community and the country. And 2020, it's been real for black America. We can definitely say that. 2020 has came, smacked us dead in the face, beat us up. Starting off 2020, what happened? Kobe died. A lot of people may feel like Kobe, but Kobe Bryant was a big inspiration to a lot of African American men. He gave hope to a lot of black people in this country through his talents in the NBA. We lost him January 26th, him and his daughter Gigi. So RIP to them. Also, January 2020, COVID-19, the corona hit the streets of the U.S. We got our first case in January of 2020. First case in Ohio, March 19th. And the first case in Cincinnati on March 31st. So, we lost Kobe. Corona hit. And then by March 23rd, Governor DeWine issued a stay-at-home order that caused everybody to be in the house. People lost jobs. People were laid off. A lot of people were in a bad situation because of COVID-19. Let's say it was unexpected. A lot of people didn't prepare for it. We weren't prepared for it. A lot of people didn't have savings accounts, didn't have no money, couldn't pay their bills, couldn't pay mortgages, rent. It was just bad. And on top of COVID-19, May of 2020, we found out about Ahmaud Arbery. He was an unarmed black man lynched in the streets of Georgia by two white men after they accused him of breaking in the house, which we come to find out today. Actually, that was not true because the owner of the house said he didn't break into their house and he ain't take nothing. So that happened. March 13th, Breonna Taylor happened in Louisville, Kentucky. She was a young African-American woman who was shot and killed by the police after they attempted a no-knock warrant and her boyfriend shot at the police. So that happened. And just last week, May 26th, George Floyd died, who was an unarmed black man, another one, killed by Minneapolis police after an officer put his knee on his neck for approximately 8 minutes. The video came out. It caused unrest in not only Cincinnati, not only Ohio, not only the United States of America, but the world. Riots broke out everywhere, and it's been real hard to be a black man in America. So today I got 4 special guests with me who can shine some light on this issue, voice their opinions, and tell us how they feel about it and how will America be post-coronavirus, post the riots. How will Black America be? So first off, I have none other than Kamara Douglas. Hey, Miss Douglas, you can turn your phone. You can turn your phone off of mute now.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. So Kamara Douglas works with Councilman Chris Silbach here in Cincinnati, Ohio, who is a city councilman. Thank you for joining us. And then I also have my sister in here with me, Miss Tropicana, midday personality for 101.1 The Wiz. Trop, what up, though?
What's going on? Still getting used to that. I was about to say, wait a minute. No, you're right.
I had to stop myself, right? Because I was about to say afternoon.
It's all good. Thank you for letting me join you.
Most definitely. And Raven Monday. I don't know. We should call her Raven or Simone Tuesday because the police definitely be listening to everything that you do. So, Raven Monday.
Support our people.
You said what?
I said the risk we take to support our people.
Yes. Raven Monday, who is a co-host for the Afternoon Experience on 101.5, 12:30 a.m. The Buzz with Emmanuel Livest. Raven, what up, though?
What's up?
And last but not least, we have my brother, He get on my nerves a lot, but I love him to death. State representative. You gotta say that with some power. State representative Cedric Ahmad Denson.
You put my middle name in there.
I appreciate y'all for being here today, man, and talking about these issues with me. But first of all, I want to know from all of y'all, just individually, how do y'all feel about Black America today?
So I want to preface this by saying that my journey of understanding Black America began just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that I was somebody.
Because Raven, you the youngest person on this call. Matter of fact, you the youngest person on this.
27.
Yeah.
But I was raised by somebody who was a few generations older. So I was raised by my grandmother. My grandmother is currently 80 years old. So I didn't miss out on like any of the stories or hearing anything about how life as a Black person was back in the 60s and even the 50s and the 40s. Like I was very aware of that stuff and how that worked. But I didn't know how present it was now until maybe, I think everybody goes through that phase in college where you kind of like, you take some kind of like elective African studies course, and then you figure out that there's some stuff about Black people that you didn't know and they ain't teach you in high school. So you kind of get inspired and you do some research. That was kind of my journey with it. And I began the process of learning my history and learning how systemic racism plays out today. And I feel like that is a journey that a lot of my generation, which is that millennial generation, a lot of us have kind of begun that, and we're very fresh in it, and we don't know what to do with it yet. I think we sometimes get a little bit confused as to what to do with that, and so we get into situations like as of recent where we kind of want to do something. We know that things are wrong. We know that racism exists. We know that we have to dismantle it, but we don't understand how to formulate that, how to strategize that, how to understand that there are more than one way to protest, or there are more than one way to get something done. I think sometimes we get so one-track minded with everything that we kind of are so very easily upset when we hear something that we don't agree with or that we don't want to take on par. We kind of get lost. And I think from what I've noticed recently, I think there's a lot of listening that's not being done. Like there's a lot of angry screaming, a lot of angry voices, and I get it. It's very well deserved. We deserve to be angry. We deserve to have our voices heard, even if that means we got to scream at the top of our lungs. I get it. But after we're done screaming, we have to listen to what is being said back. And I think we're so busy screaming right now that we're not listening.
So basically, you feel like that Black America is, I won't say disorganized, but it's a battle between like listening and talking.
I feel like we're trying to narrow down one specific strategy when there are a plethora of things that we can be doing on a bunch of different levels. It's a more complex thing than just trying to narrow down one thing exactly that we need to do. A lot of the things that a lot of times we talk about on the show, that you need the people who are going to go out and be the protesters, but you also need the people who are not going to participate in the protest so that we can sit at home and strategize, okay, when they start arresting y'all, who are we going to send down there to bail you out? Or who are we going to send down there to explain to you your rights? Or there's more than one way to do things, and we need people in every lane and every facet of this thing for it to work. And I think a lot of times we get into a position where we feel like if somebody's not protesting the way that we protest, or if somebody's not speaking on the issue that we're speaking on specifically, that we're kind of like doing each other a disservice, when really it all matters. And it's like this entire situation with George Floyd. It is definitely about the fact that that unarmed Black man was killed by police, but it's also about that group of black boys who, when it's three or more of them walking down the street, a white officer feels compelled to stop them because that looks suspicious.
Mm.
They stayed at home that night, but they were still victims of racism.
Mm.
And there are ways to fix that we're trying to. We're so angry that we're not considering the things that we asked for. They can't just feed into fixing one specific problem. If we're really going to sit down and plan this thing out and really decide that we are going to put our best foot forward in dismantling racism, we have to be prepared to cover all areas of it. It cannot just be a one thing at a time sort of thing, because that's how people get frustrated. Well,
Okay,
why are
let me go to somebody else real quick. Trop, how do you feel about Black America today?
I would challenge what she says, although I do agree with everything that she says. I think that today I got a chance to see a different level of hope in our Black community that I haven't seen in a very long time. I think that we've kind of entered into a different phase of, this is the first time I think it feels so funny even saying these things. These are the things that our parents say, like, in my time, like in the life that I have lived,
Make you feel old.
This is the first time I've ever seen this happen. But this week we had Confederate statues go down. We had a nationwide unity where there was somebody protesting on behalf of Black men and women and police brutality in unity in all 50 states in 13 countries around the world. And I think that we are finally seeing kind of like the seeds that were sown of the 60s. And of those quiet people that were, still kind of investing in the community that we didn't really see doing things. I think that we are on a new brink. And the great part is that everybody is angry. Then that means that you care and that you're paying attention. And I think we're in a great place to kind of begin to kind of take hold of our community again. This is the first time I've seen lists going around about buying Black, and it not just be like, we need to keep our money in the neighborhood, and then we don't see that post again. People are actually doing the work and finding the list and finding the places where you can shop, or they're doing the things like the rallies that happened earlier today that you guys were hanging out at, and people are asking a question like, what is my part? How can I stand up? And I think that is a great look for Black America. I don't think that it stops anything. I think the awareness is great, but I think that we still got to fight within it, but just kind of have an opportunity to take hold of our community. I think that it's a great look right now, even in the midst of the things that are still kind of broken.
100. Cedric, how do you feel about Black America today?
I think Black America today is still screwed up. I think that one thing that's kind of unfortunate about everything that we're talking about right now, like Raven was saying, it's not just this like one issue. There's a lot of other things going on. When we look at the list of issues, we are still talking about access to transportation. We're talking about equal paying jobs. We're talking about voting rights. We're talking about education. We're talking about housing. And what I think some of our younger generation now that is in some cases being passed the baton, if you will, or just coming onto the scene, doesn't realize is that same list is the same thing that we were fighting for in the civil rights movement. Nothing has changed. And what that means in terms of where we are with Black America today is that we look at movements like the LGBTQ movement. As far as we can look back, I think that they have always been on Earth. But what they figured out was that things were getting really bad for them towards the late 70s, early 80s. And we look today in 2020, and they have formed and come up with a movement and activism and an organizing plan. And they've gotten just about, not everything that they want, but they have knocked off a lot of things off of their list within those 30 something, close to 40 years. And so the question then becomes, if that was a community of people that seen that they weren't getting equal access to something, they weren't feeling as though their rights were being heard, why are we still advocating for something that we were advocating for in the 60s. And I think that's two parts to how you answer that. One is that our generation's got to understand that there is nothing different about the things that we're fighting for. Everything is still the same, and we can't reinvent what that means or any meaning behind it. We're just going to have to and not so much even reinvent, we're just going to have to organize around how we solve those issues and stick to it. The other part of it is that I think a lot of things plays into our generations of how we are, how we use our platforms, and sometimes we get caught up in that, and therefore the movement kind of slows down. So you've got people with social media platforms who can turn on the camera and talk. You've got people who can do all these different things with their outlets, but what we haven't figured out is we're talking about the same thing and we're not doing it together in an organized way. Because what we've seen is that a community came together and has surpassed us.
Literally. Yeah.
And so I always like to look at it and paint that picture like that. And there are a lot of factors because you do have a lot of individuals with influence within that organizing. But the point is they took something from the ground and they used everybody, no matter whether you were all the way up the top with influence or somebody who got up every day that just felt as though you needed to be a part of something. They found a way to bring everybody together. And that's the thing we got to figure out today. So in terms of Black America today, and more importantly, Ohio, but for all of us, Cincinnati, it's not that many of us. I mean, we see the same people show up time and time again. And so the question then becomes, at what point is everybody going to quit playing games and actually do something and be in their respectful places to get that work done?
Come on.
Personally, with the climate and everything, I find it rather traumatizing. Personally, this is not my first experience with dealing with riots. In 2015, when I lived in Baltimore City, Freddie Gray died at the hands of the police. They actually broke his spine. And I just remember being so angry at the time. And I just remember having that conversation where, once again, you hear people digging from the past, from that person's past, to justify their murder. And it's very frustrating. It's just so insulting. And I just remember feeling really angry. And then dealing with the stress and trauma of the riots, working with the city, working with the Baltimore City legislators, trying to find the solution, brought back, it actually triggered old feelings. And myself and many others, we're feeling not only triggered, but we're traumatized. And, I think right now, just experiencing the current events and what I saw, with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and just the various African Americans that recently passed away at the hands of the police, it was definitely triggering. And then, it's always the same pattern where you see people, legislators coming together for a quick fix. And then a few weeks later, a couple months later, the problem's going to go away and we're going to enter the same cycle again. I noticed that this time is different. A lot of people are very angry and we have everyone's attention now. And one thing that we really need to address is the deep-rooted issues that plague our community, whether it's mental health, jobs, just the plethora of issues that we're experiencing. So that's my thoughts. I think that we need to get to the bottom of it and really address it.
No, definitely. And you said one thing. You said that we got everybody's attention, and we definitely do. But one thing I will say that we can all agree on, that it's a lot of issues. Like Cedric said, it's a lot of issues, and Raven said the same thing. It's a lot of issues that we can all agree that affects the Black community, like a whole bunch of issues. If they said what is everything that y'all want and what y'all need, we have a long list of things. But if you go to a lot of these other ethnic groups, a lot of them, like, they all agree on what the common goal is. If you go to the Mexican community, they're going to tell you our goal is immigration. We want better immigration rights or something like that. But if you ask Black people, we can go on a list of things. But what do y'all feel like are, to you, let's say, or to you or to the Black community, should be the two most important issues that we try to get changed?
I don't even know if we can even narrow it down to two issues. What I think it just really needs to be, and this is why when we have this conversation, we really have to narrow it down to Cincinnati. And being at the State House as a representative has really taught me how really effed up Cincinnati is,
Mm-hmm.
because we have other cities with large Black populations within the state of Ohio. We got Akron, Canton, Cleveland, Columbus. And what I see is those Black representatives, you can see the cohesion of how they work together when they, whether it's through their state rep or their council people, all the way down to the activists, to and all the way over to the social service organizations. You can see that, and it really pissed me off, because I'm going, other places are getting this. So this really becomes a conversation about Cincinnati. And so one thing that I always start by saying to people who always want to take the time to understand
Mm.
this place and why even just us, where we are in Cincinnati, is you have to understand that Cincinnati has had lack of leadership in the Black community for an extremely long time. Other cities have been fortunate enough to have something. It hasn't been great because on the overall greater scheme of things,
Right.
we haven't gotten anything out of the deal. But when you look to Atlanta, Thane Maynard, and all of those guys, they were able to come together, and at some point, Black people got something out of the deal. We haven't got anything here. And part of that is because a lot of our players who we perceive to be in Raven, she unfortunately has to answer the phone for a lot of them every day, who are perceived to be some of our leaders in the city of Cincinnati, have
Uh-huh.
completely sold us out, and they go sit in other rooms, and they are paid and controlled to come and do exactly what they do, and that's make everybody think that they are there for the greater good and the change. And when I say that it is people who we know and have a great deal of respect for, I know for a fact a lot of them are sent in to distract and deflect a lot of things. So when you look at that and try to make it make sense, it makes complete sense, because what have we got? Absolutely nothing. And when we can look to other cities within our own state, they are able to get something done, able to get resources too. You can then see it's by design that we're doing what we're doing. It's not by design that it's more Black people in the city of Cincinnati than it is others. And a stadium just got built that we didn't want. It's not by design that when you look at all of the infrastructure and you see all the things like the banks and all those things and regentrification, that it's more of us, but yet and still the projects are going forward. How is it more of us than it is them? And yet we still keep ending up with the short end of the stick. It goes back to
Right.
my point. Because some people who we perceive to be our leaders are designed and specifically sent in to actually distract, deflect, and actually take the wind out of the sails of what actually was going to mean that we were getting somewhere. And that's how sick and jacked up that we really are.
So basically, like you saying, we need to vote those people out of office and get people who are really on our side in office, right?
Well, and it's not so much even the elected officials, because again, I always say, even when we talk about city council, don't go around on a campaign trail telling me what you're going to do unless you've got 5 other people, as Kamara will tell you, that are going to do it. Because you
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything alone on city council unless you've got a vote of 5. And if it's going to be veto proof, you need 6 votes. So don't tell me what you're going to do and this and that, what you're going to work on. You can do whatever the hell you say you want to do. But the reality is, if you don't have those people prior to going into office saying that they're going to agree and sign on to it, you're just running around giving lip service. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not so much even about that, because you've got, when you talk about community organizing, you've got the electeds, and a lot of the buck stops there. But mine is these community activists are able to deflect, have press conferences, show up in front of cameras, and do things that will really throw us off kilter, but make us feel as though we're getting somewhere. But again, here's the reality. What have you gotten? Absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So the question becomes, at what point is enough of us going to get together and form something, I won't say separately, but form enough to get the support to plow through and say this is where the masses are going, and or at what point is enough of us going to step up and call out those and say you're what's in the way, so we can get them out the way and actually move forward with the work. Because again, Cincinnati isn't that big and it's not that many players involved, but there is a short list of them that block a lot of things on every level, whether that's an activist, whether that's running an organization, or whether that's an elected official. And it ain't that many elected officials, so you can all just about gather in your head who is black, who's full of shit.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Nah, Trop, go ahead.
As an out of towner who has made Cincinnati my home and lived in multiple cities within the state of Ohio, I 100% agree with what Cedric just said. When you talk about the stark difference between cities and the black leadership that is involved, I lived in Cleveland prior to moving here, and in Cleveland we had a black mayor. We had a black police chief. The president of the school board was black, and it was just a very heavily black and empowering city. As a citizen that's not a member of any political organization or working for any level of the state or the city, just as a black person in the city, you have a different level of confidence walking through a city like that when you can look up every day and see. I remember my first week in Cleveland, Mayor Frank, I was in the hood on Superior, like Superior and 152nd, where nobody really should ever be. I'm just nosy. And was walking. He had just won his election, and he had him and his whole entire administration walking through the streets to Superior. Not for a photo op, just walking up the street. There was no press. There wasn't, anybody looking to cover it. He was just walking through the neighborhood and talking to people. And when I got here, a conversation that me and you have had, along with Raven and everybody else that we work with at the Wiz, I ask on a regular basis because it blows my mind sometimes, the level of oppression that I see kind of in place here. I don't blame that on the citizens or the people here. I love Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati has some great things to offer, but it's a deep-rooted level of oppression that covers the city, and that comes from a lack of education. Some of the things that you just spoke to, Cedric, most of us, and I'm not speaking for y'all, because I know that all of y'all are great, black, educated, strong black people, and I know y'all read.
You see your background.
You got a legal terminology book on the side of your bed right now, Dough, and Raven, I know you like to just read Edgar Allan Poe on your free time. You guys are well versed in the things that you're talking about, but the general public that I talk to on a day-to-day basis, they don't even know that the police have two different unions. I learned that as a radio personality and as a grown woman yesterday. The reasons why, while we're angry at the police, we are why can't we just fire them? Not knowing that they have a union that protects them. And if they get fired down in Louisville for Breonna Taylor's case, in 2 weeks they'll be rehired and get paid back pay. And it takes me going to the polls to change that. And I know that if I talk to people on a day-to-day basis at 18 to 34 years of age, that they don't know that either. And I think that when you ask what are the things that the black community needs more than anything, I think that we do need mental health. I think that we all need jobs, but I think that if we get education first, and education that is fair and equal amongst all, and maybe it don't start with them, but an education that we can be responsible enough for, then it will answer the problems of jobs, because we can create our own businesses. You will realize that, damn, I got some daddy issues that keep making me talk to these street niggas, and my self-esteem is a little bit low because I don't see people in power that look like me, and I would love to be a state representative, but I don't even know how to get there, and I can't ask anybody around me because I work at Wendy's, and my white manager just told me to go take my 15-minute break and be back in 10 minutes. Like, it's different things and issues that we can deal with that I think education would solve, or if our community, as you all said, all of y'all said the same thing, organize at a level on a local base where if I don't learn it in school, I'm gonna learn it somewhere here. And I don't know, hopefully that this anger that everybody has will lead us in that direction. But that's all.
All right, Kamara.
Also a transplant from Cincinnati, or to Cincinnati, and
Be more. You gotta rep your city.
And like Trot mentioned, I come from a place where we have predominantly Black representation. I'm from Bermuda originally. You guys all know that. And I grew up in a community that's always been Black. Leadership, police, fire, that's always been the representation. I remember moving to Cincinnati, and within the first few weeks, I noticed that there was so much suppression here. And you just felt it. And everyone was so used to it, like, yeah, it's racist here. It's fine. You'll be okay. And where I come from,
those were your exact words, J.Dough, by the way.
Yeah. That is.
Yeah, it's not okay. And, you know, I remember having that conversation with Cedric about the bad actors who portray themselves as leaders, you know, in the Black community. And I remember just feeling so disappointed because these are the same people that are feeding this information to the Black community, where they actually add a level of suppression. And it's time that what I would love to see is to just remove, I don't want to say remove that leadership, but we definitely need to add better leadership. We need to add more people to the front line that can speak on behalf of those who doesn't really feel like they have a voice. And, you know, I would love to see that change. And then I also want to see more people vote. You know, there's been quite a few ideas coming around. For example, Fair Cincy. Have you heard about that? Well,
no.
So Fair Cincy, it's basically about trying to make it fair for basically everyone in Cincinnati to vote. So you would have like different precincts and districts. And I remember them guaranteeing 2 Black seats on council. Have you heard about that, Cedric?
Yeah, go ahead and say what you're going to say, because I'm going to say a bunch of stupid shit about it.
Nah, because I want to get into that stuff too. So this is going to be, I won't say a little minute, but I want to get into that stuff too but just go ahead, continue.
But, you know, I remember hearing about that, and I'm thinking to myself, we have more than 2 Black people on council right now, and how problematic and racist Fair Cincy is. And no matter how they try to jazz it up, guaranteeing 2 Black seats when we have what,
9 seats available? Well, six seats available, ain't it?
It's 9. There's 9 seats on council.
Right.
And part of the plan and criteria was to also add Republicans, people from different parts of town, and, you know, they would be guaranteed I don't want to say they're guaranteed a seat, but with that specific district, they'll have a better time winning. And, you know, I just remember thinking how problematic that was. And I don't care what they say. I don't think Cincinnati is not ready to have districts.
No.
Baltimore, we have that, but we also know that 95% of the legislators are going to be Black. The mayor is going to be Black, you know, so we know that. But, you know, I want to see more people voting. A lot of people don't know this, but in 2013, I don't know if they remember or not, but Shelby County versus Holder was a very important case in which they actually striked 2 laws from the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And people, they forgot about that, unfortunately. And as a result of that, you see more voting precincts disappear, like in the South, for example, because they have every right to now just say, well, you know, we don't need to have the, you know, this driver's license place or, you know, their division of motor vehicles or voting precincts. And they made it a lot harder for Black people to vote. And this is going on today. And that frightens me because we're now experiencing that today. And I'm sure Cedric can talk more about House Bill 680 also.
We'll go into all that, but let me hear from Raven. One the last person, we're going to move on to the next question. So, Raven.
Remind me of the question again.
So the question is, what do you feel like are the 2 main issues for Black America? that we should try to fight first before anything else? It's hard to narrow it down to two. I know, because we got a long list. It's like a Christmas wish list.
I think immediately I just need what, of course, we have gathered here for. I just need them to stop killing us. I need for us to be safe in this country. I need for us to be able to walk through the streets of our neighborhoods and be able to trust that the person that is policing our neighborhood is on our side and not there trying to make sure that they got a reason to pop off their gun that day. I need that to be a reality. I think that is unacceptable that I wake up every day with the realization that at any moment, even while sleeping, I could have died if law enforcement, for any reason, suspected any kind of criminal activity to be happening in my home. Or just on an off chance that some white person who lives in my complex stumbles into my door in the middle of the night and I'm sitting on the couch having a bowl of ice cream. I could die that way as well. I think maybe that's a 2-in-1, but I think I need for law enforcement to stop killing us. And I need for just in general for my life to not be seen as something that is just so discardable that when it comes time to seek justice for me and my family, that y'all are not scrolling through my social media posts or trying to drug test me and see what kind of drugs I had in my system as you killed me, as you murdered me, or what my education looked like, or what my criminal record looked like before you decided to take my life. I need that to not be a thing. And I think there should be, even if it does seem superficial, there should be some sort of policy or at least some kind of decency, some kind of thing that compels media not to paint these stories or not to be allowed to paint this narrative that is not true. And there should be some kind of way that you can seek legal action when that happens. Why do you need to know what his criminal record like or what his medical record was like if it's not relevant to this very moment which he's died? I think maybe that's my second one as well, is that I need for the media to be a lot more responsible. I'll be very honest with you. I do not currently watch local news because it is nothing but opinion. And when I want to watch the news, I need you to present me with facts, and then I can take that factual information and develop my own opinion. I think currently local news has been terrible. They have covered these stories and this entire situation, this entire experience, absolutely disgustingly. Like I have to watch the news and I have to search these sites and I have to intake their information for the job that I do because I have to do show prep for the show. But just trying to comb through these articles and comb through these opinion pieces and these quote unquote analysis pieces, and it's nothing but just opinionated rhetoric about whether or not this man or these black people deserve to die or not, or what that means for white people and how that makes them feel. Like, I need for you to give me factual information, because what you do is when you try to create this narrative or you give us this edited version of the news, you take away from the message. You take away from the fact that, yes, we are angry. Yes, we fucked some shit up downtown, but that's not what we talk about right now. What we're talking about right now is the fact that we cannot, in Hamilton County, we cannot get peace from our police, from our law enforcement. That's what we need to be talking about. Not how this makes you feel in your white tears and your white feelings. Not when is enough gonna be enough of the violence. I need you to start talking about what trying to get you to talk about, and then maybe we can get to that next. Maybe we can get to that later. But for right now, I don't need your opinion pieces. I need you to give us the facts. I need you to tell me why our president shot rubber bullets and tear gas peaceful protesters to go take a picture in front of a church he never stepped foot in. I want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about how this makes you feel, because it's not about you and how you feel. It's about the facts. But you don't want to talk about that. And so I think, I don't know how this is going to be able to be done, but I promise I will make it my life's work to make it a way. But I need some kind of way to hold the media accountable for the mess, the trash that they put out there, because what they do is they are taking away people's voices. They're taking away from what is truly the issue here. And I don't I'm not gonna continue to just go along with it, because I have a responsibility. And what I do, I speak to an audience of people every day, and I have some liberty to give opinion because it is talk radio, but at the end of the day, the things that I'm talking about are based on fact, not based on, well, when is enough going to be enough for, I'm not, what I'm talking about is not taking away from the issue. It's getting us to plan and be strategic about what we plan to do about it. That's, if I can do that, if I can make that distinction, so can our local news.
Okay. Y'all some long-winded black folks, I swear to God. But nah, I totally agree with you. But Raven, you are media though. So you, like, when you say like you talk radio and you gotta be opinionated, you gotta be factual too, because you know them callers on the buzz will call in and try to argue with y'all, and that ain't right, and Raven said this, and Emmanuel said that, or I heard Lincoln say this. Like, so you are media too.
Absolutely. And like I said, I take full responsibility for that, because as I said, part of my responsibility is to also give the facts. But like I said, with talk radio, you kind of do get that leeway, because once we present you with the facts, then we are open to discuss the opinions and the views that we feel, or the beliefs that we have about the facts that we have set out before you. When I'm watching local news, I'm not there to hear about how Cherie Palello feels about how the situation makes her and her children and her family feel, or I need you to give me the facts as an unbiased news source, and then we can go from there. But if you jumping straight into, well, when enough going to be enough, or the looters and the rioters, then we're not talking about what we're supposed to be talking about right now.
All right, then. Now I know one thing we talked about earlier was leadership. The lack of leadership in the black community. Well, let's just say here in Cincinnati. What do y'all think is like? Well, y'all to address some issues that are wrong with some of the leadership that we do have, but how do we weed out those people though?
I want to go first.
All right, go ahead.
Me. Me.
Go ahead, go.
Part of leadership is just actually having somebody who you feel like you can trust. And obviously, and this is not a knock on anybody, but obviously no one has spoke up and said anything in the way that we feel that we can trust, because obviously we'd be following. And again,
I don't mean to cut you off real quick, but I know I haven't heard from a lot of, I ain't really heard from the mayor. He may have said something, but it went over my head. The mayor, only person who I done really heard say something is Jeff Passer on the news crime. That's the only person who I've heard say anything that was just like.
It was dumb.
You said what?
The mayor said something yesterday. It was dumb.
Oh, he did yesterday? All right, go ahead, Cedric. My bad.
I'm trying to
put it in the right words.
God is good, and he will grant me the opportunity to let my words be his and not my own.
Yes, he will.
Leadership here, again, it's been such a lack thereof, and there's been such a small amount of us who've had the opportunity to be the perceived leaders that we've been able to be picked off in a way where we hate each other. So when you start talking to black, and this is innocently my part of what I came into blindly, because even what I have to remind people a lot of times about is, before there was and Kamara, I mean, he knows it, it's just the reality of everything. Before Chris Silbach, before PG, before Tamaya was working for PG, before everything, and Yvette Simpson and all that, I was the youngest, only black chief of staff at City Hall down there working for Wendell Young before all that. So I've been around a long time before they even existed. We even knew their name or the intentions of any of them to run for office. And then
you're showing your age now.
Well, I mean, I give credit to Wendell, because he hired me without having any real experience, but he trusted that I would get in there and learn and figure it out. So I give a lot of credit to him on that, because I was the youngest, and I was trying to figure my way out. But when you talk about leadership, we have this narrative has got out there. And when I was working on certain issues, I'm like, oh, well, we'll just bring everybody in. We'll get that person, and we'll bring together the coalition, and then we'll step out. And I'm like, oh, well, such and such don't really work together. And, they don't do that. And I'm like, well, what happened? Well, back in 92, such and such. And
Some old issues.
yeah, some hosts, and I'm going, oh my God, this is why we're so screwed up. But because everybody's been pulled in every different direction, it's almost like we need what a lot of people refer to as an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately for us, something came forth called Black Agenda Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And what that was attempting to do is just for lack of time, if you look at United Way was designed to sort of be a hub for all nonprofits to then be like under the umbrella of. So what it was to take all of corporate Cincinnati and have all that money and resources go to United Way, and then United Way funnels it out to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Why? Because it works. So what happened? We decided we needed that in Cincinnati, and we called it Black Agenda Cincinnati, which was not designed to be one person in control of everything. It was designed to be that hub where resources could go and then funnel it out to our interests, our organizations, things that we wanted to see happen. Well, what happened? It was Black people that actually destroyed the idea of it. And so when you talk about leadership, one, you have to address, do we want leadership? Yes, we want leadership overall. But again, back to my original point, you don't get leadership with perceived leaders in place that seem like they're there for us. But like I said, there's a lot of moving parts that go on behind the scenes of things that they're sent out to distract and deflect everybody. And you would never even know or understand that they just really screwed us and not getting what we needed. So I know for a fact that one of the reasons Black Agenda Cincinnati didn't work was because the convener of it, people had issues with. Well, I'm not necessarily concerned about you having issues with the convener of it as much as I am concerned about the fact that there was a need for it,
right,
and somebody willing to convene it. And so it's that kind of stuff that you then have to step back and look at and say, okay, how serious are we really? Everybody is enamored with the white man in Cincinnati that is in, for the most case, for most, I got to say most. And I'm only going to deflect when I talk about Black leadership from Wendell Young, because Wendell, he's old school. He does things his way. And because I work for him, a lot of things he had done behind the scenes that he didn't necessarily need a headline for to go tell you about. But because I did the work that he would hand me over to do when something needed to be done, it happened. And that's what leadership is. You need leadership. And another point to what leadership and that means, I worked at the State House from Hamilton County. Another representative, Catherine Ingram, she served on Cincinnati Public School Board for 25 years. I call it old school leadership. She reminds me so much of Wendell. She don't need a headline. She don't need a tweet. She don't need all this fanfare. But yet and such, she's saying the stuff that needs to be said and is doing the stuff that needs to be doing. And that then becomes the disconnect in how we as young people getting involved in the movement, and those that have been there are having the real disconnect, because there's this thing like, well, we feel like they're not listening to us and not really valuing our opinion, and they feel like we're being disrespectful. And well, guess what? Honestly, being a young person, I feel like we need to shut the hell up sometime and actually listen more, because I sat in rooms for 7 years and I'm only able to understand and move about and do the things and get some momentum behind the things that I'm doing because I listened to those folks. I always had an opinion. I knew I always had a voice, but there's a time and a place to speak out on it. Sometimes you got to slow down and shut up. Some of these folks who you can weed out, and it's judge of character. We don't like to do it. You figure out who's real, and you glean onto that, and you say, that brother, that sister is saying something that's meaningful, and I need to listen. I did that for 7 years. It was hard to just be in the background, not being able to say something I felt like I need and had a voice. But had I not done that, I don't think I would understand as much as I do today, because this whole thing that we paint the picture of, well, we need to do this and we need to do, no. It's so many integral parts behind that you got to understand. But if you're so busy running your mouth because you think you understand what's going on and that where Black people are today is something new, you're lost. We got black people in Cincinnati been going through this shit for a long time and can share a lot of
Mm-hmm.
insight and tell you exactly who the characters are and how they operate and how these organizations were formed. Because I got a lot of stories on that. So when you look at it through that lens of what leadership means and how all that builds in, we gotta one trust and scout out and feel the ones that are there that are older and listen to them and not be. I mean, it's just like anything when you with your family and older members, they rub you the wrong way and you like they don't get it. Da, da, da. But at the end of the day, as now we are getting to that people, we're sliding into the adulthood and being responsible. We
Right.
go, damn, I see what they were saying, and so we got to be cognizant of that because our issues aren't new. Cincinnati issues definitely are new. And if we're going to start getting something out of the deal, we got to figure out how to come together and trust who can lead us into this that don't necessarily want anything. I tell everybody every day, I'm elected. Y'all might think it makes a lot of money. It simply doesn't. There's a lot of gas going up and down the road. There's a lot of hotel fees staying overnight in Columbus. At the end of the day, as long as I come home and my wife tell me I'm cute, that's all I need. I don't need my ego stroked by anybody else. I'm in this for the right reason. But unfortunately, you got people that are in it because they want to feel important. They want to feel like they did something about it. And that's not leadership. And that's what we really got to look at with a coastal lens.
Now, facts. Now, Trop and Kamar, I want to ask y'all this since y'all out of towners, so y'all know how it is looking from the outside in. What do you feel like besides my fault? What do you feel like besides the racism? What is Cincinnati's biggest problem when it comes to black people?
Coming from the outside, looking in, nobody wants to put in the work. And I remember coming to Cincinnati and I had this idea like, oh, I want to do like a criminal justice symposium. I want to do it at this location. I want to have X, Y, and Z. And, mind you, I don't know a lot of people, but, I just wanted to figure out a way to bring Black people together and discuss the issues that really affect them in their community. And I just remember hearing, oh, yeah, that sounds great. You put it all together and let me know, and then I'll show up later.
Right.
And I'm like, but, I realized, throughout the years since I've been here that if I want to get something done, I'm just going to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I collaborate with people. Or, I'll tell Chris, hey, let's do this. Don't worry, I'll take care of all of it. And, that's how I need to get things done. And personally, I always enjoy being behind the scenes because I don't, I'm not the type of person to be out, doing all that, being out in the forefront. I do believe that change could be done. Just wherever. And, as far as Black leadership, I feel like, I don't want to say it's a horse and pony show, but I did realize that they'll only show up after the fact, after they know, oh, this is a really successful event. Oh, wow, this is really cool. Let me come and add my 2 cents so I can say I was there, And that really bothers me because if we want to plan, if we want to help liberate people, we shouldn't focus on how it makes ourselves look good at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it should be about helping and serving the people. And it shouldn't matter, it's personally. So that's my 2 cents about that. What about you, Trop?
I pretty much agree with what Kamara said. It's not necessarily that Cincinnati is a bad place. I actually enjoy a lot of the tenacity that the people here have. I said I don't like it, and that's what the fuck I said. Or that ain't gonna work, and that's it. Like, y'all are pretty straightforward about how y'all feel. But again, the leadership that I have seen, not from a political side, but just like within the city, this has been the first time I've moved somewhere and I could not 100% pinpoint who was doing what and how to connect the dots to get things done. in most major cities that I have lived in, and even the small ones too, like I could pretty much plan out who can I talk to, and they're open to want to work with you. There's a lot of people here that I have seen that are in positions of power or influence, and because they have that position of power and influence, they're extremely arrogant, and they're arrogant and kind of standoffish with you and don't even know you. It's just an immediate, I don't, what the fuck do you want type of attitude on a consistent basis from the people who really have an opportunity to be influential and to help. And they just kind of, I don't know, like that's my only thing that is really hard to, outside of the circle of friends that I have and talking to you guys, unless you guys tell me who is somebody that's doing something, 85% of the time I can't tell. And the people who are saying that they are doing stuff, like Kamara said, they show up at the end and like, hey, take my picture with the organizer. There you go. So that's my only thought. Other than that, though, that's it.
All right, now let me ask y'all. I got 2 more questions I want to ask y'all. Then we out.
Can I weigh in real quick on something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick. So she said something about, and this is where like the breakdown and the understanding is, and she didn't say anything wrong, but she said something innocently when she said leaders on the political side. I can only speak for Cincinnati because that's all of what I do. When we say politics,
no, I said the leaders. I'm not speaking on the political side. I'm talking about the people that are in the realm. I don't work in that side. I mean, like business leaders or event organizers or that. I wasn't talking about y'all, Cedric.
No. I was, and that was the point I was going to make about how Cincinnati is actually designed and structured right now. So even when you talk about, and I can't get into the event promoters and think, well, I can to a degree. I always say everything has politics. So you all have politics of how things elevate and work within your industry. I have politics because people, I mean, it's politics, but I always say politics is what we put into it. Like it's what you add into it. It only exists when you then put it there. But I was saying that to say within Cincinnati, and this was not like I wasn't refuting anything you were saying, but within Cincinnati, all of that is connected. And what it is because it's not that many people, Cincinnati has built an infrastructure on what can perceive to be the political players controlling or navigating things. But in Cincinnati, when you look at places like, and God love them, but unfortunately, because how they have to operate, like Mortar, when you look at African American Chamber, all the way to when you look at the regional chamber, and then you jump over to Community Action Agency and the Urban League, all of that is connected through politics. So whether it's that leader of that organization saying something to that elected official or that elected official saying something to that organization, it's all connected in how they're channeling everything. And that's what everybody says, like, oh, I don't get into politics. And I'm going, oh, well, if you're going to live here, you're going to figure it out real quick because that's how all of our resources have become connected. And that's the thing that is, the perception on the on-site is because you come from normal places where people actually do normal things. Coming into a place like where we are, you would come in and you would see not so much that separation, but you would see where everybody stays in their lane. But here, it's so daggone screwed up that one got everything to do with the other. One don't move without the other. And so when you think in terms of that, it's not so much politics as it is there's an infrastructure created on making sure that everything's working out. It's almost like with your industry, if you got that mic on the radio and somebody out on the street got some songs they want played on the radio, depending on your interaction or how you collaborate or how you know them, it will or will not get on. Sometimes that got to do all with how great of an artist they are, but sometimes it's got all to do with how great of a relationship you have with them. And so in Cincinnati, in most cases, it has nothing to do. You can go to school, get a master's degree and whatever, and think that you can really change the world in Cincinnati. But if you don't have that relationship, your degree don't mean a thing. And
that's challenging for a city to be able to grow, though.
Challenge here. I'm sorry.
But that closed hand that controls those things, after you just also spoke to the fact saying that some of those leaders are specifically assigned to be distracting and not get work done, and keeping that infrastructure closed to people that are coming from other places, or the young who want to come in and learn and assist, that can be damaging to how a city flows, or the growth or the progression of how things change and happen. But that's
Well,
neither here nor
well,
there.
and that's my exact point of why, like, and I tell, in case in point, I'm hiring somebody new in my office, and what boss says this, but it's like, I told her, don't come in here so much to work for me. I expect you to do everything I need you to do, but come in here, make the relationships you need for wherever you want to go so you can get there, and let me know what that is so I can help push that along. And that's what white people in this city have done.
Mm.
They make sure this one person, it's not so much that this person is going to be the best council person or the best mayor, it's that
The
they're going to make
relationship.
Yeah.
development deal gets done so that developer gets paid. But then guess what? Then we got to make sure that we got this person over at the regional chamber, which is a nonprofit, running it on the government relations side, all the way to them. We're going to make sure that we include this consultant because we got to have a communications person do this. So then they get paid. So they have built a world of that. And so my point is that if we can't figure out that it ain't politics, it's that politics happens to drive how we all can build an infrastructure, how we all can stabilize each other, then we'll get nothing out of this. We can't stay in our own respective lanes and not understand that all this is connected. Back to Raven's point earlier about how media is portrayed. Well, media is saying whatever who you like right now, if you go and click on any one of our local media stations, whatever company pops up with advertising, that's who's driving that station right now.
Absolutely.
That's the narrative of the owner of that, and you all know that. And so it's not so much that they're even saying, they're even personal feelings, they're saying whatever who they know is patting their pockets. So we got to look at that too. So if I go and click on that WCBO, WLWT, or whatever Fox 19 is, or all of our stations, and see all those people, and then start to make the connection. Well, okay, so that means if they're on this website, they're controlling that narrative because they're spending a lot of money. Well, let's also go look over at City Hall and see how many of those owners of those companies are given to those people in power. So now you start to get it. Oh, when an article gets posted or a news story goes out, it's because he's in position at City Hall or she's in position who picked up the phone and said, make sure this gets out to the news. And then that business owner can call the news and say, this is where you need to go. And if not, we're going to pull our money in advertising. So all of that is connected. And that's what I mean by everything ain't politics. Who would ever create all of that to an understanding that that's how the city operates? I'm telling you, case in point, I know.
All right, now let me ask y'all this, though. What do y'all think that, because I've been going to a lot of these protests and these marches and everything, and it's been 80% white people. Now, whether they are for us or whether they against us, I don't know. But it blows my mind to see so many white people. And I mean so many white people. Like, it's scary that I see all these white people screaming, Black Lives Matter! Don't kill black people! And all this stuff like that. And with the riots and everything going on, we can see that the white people, they definitely turned up and they with the shits. Whether in a good reason or a bad reason, they definitely with the shits. But what is one thing that we can expect for them to do as white people, as our allies?
Oh, as our allies.
As our allies.
We can expect them to be passionate about a cause every time. They always are passionate about a cause. You might not expect them to do much more work after that, but you can expect them to lead the cause in regards to being loud about it. This is like listening to Cedric talk and listening to y'all talk has just kind of reminded me that in every decade there has been a cause that white America has been really excited about. Like whether it be the war, we don't want to go to war, we want peace, and like they gonna do whatever for that. They look for causes to be a part of. In this, what I would hope to see white America, this sounds so crazy that we even saying stuff like this, or that newscasters are on the news talking about their white privilege on CNN. Like, it's so crazy to see that. But
they know that they have it, though. That's the thing. They know that they have white privilege.
They know they have it, but when have you ever like cut on CNN and watched a funeral and heard somebody say, I mean, I understand that I have neglected to acknowledge my white privilege. Like I heard that today and was like, what channel is this on? Did he just say that? What I would hope to see them do as allies is begin to ask questions on how they can actually help, and what resources they can bring to the community, or are they willing to bring to the community, because it's still the same thing. But that would be great to be able to see that. Hopefully, I don't know if I can expect that, but it would be good. I think like the situation with Eli's barbecue that we talked about earlier. Even though a lot of people looked at that as an opportunity to be extremely offended, it's the first time we can expect them to be ignorant because they don't have our struggle. We can expect them not to know how to really communicate the right way, or to apologize, or whatever it is that they're going to try to do to have a peace offering. They don't want us to tear their shit up. So they have those moments. I think that we can expect them to do that. And hopefully it's genuine enough to where we can teach them what it is that we need from them. So I don't know if I even answered your question. They fight on the nose.
I did. All right, Raven, what do you think that our white allies can do to help Black America? Y'all gotta stop being so long with it too.
I will try. I promise I will try. I think I expect them to do the same thing that a lot of us had to do. Me, myself, like I said before, when we first begun the conversation, I didn't know as much about my history a few years ago as I do now. It's people who I talk to on a day-to-day basis who consider me like one of the most woke people they know, not knowing that a few years ago I was literally like finding information wherever I could find it and trying to learn about this stuff and trying to get familiar with it. And so I think it is now that they've started to begin listening to us and hearing us talk about these things and being open to understanding, okay, maybe this is an issue that I can address in some way. I need for them to be willing to educate themselves. I need for them to be willing to be educated. Because it's one thing to feel passionately about this one incident that you saw play out on national television, but it's a whole other thing to actually truly understand it and how it plays out in your day-to-day life and start making decisions based on that information.
Facts. Kamara.
Keep it short.
That was good. I like that one. That was real good.
I mean, I agree with everyone. They need to keep that same energy going. This is not a fad. It shouldn't be a trend. They need to learn something. And they also, what I think, they should also educate others, whether it's their own family members or like their friends, because who knows what people say when they're not around, certain groups. And they could say something that's, that would catch them off guard. And then most importantly, they need to recognize their own implicit biases. And, there's so many things that, I can just go down the list, but yeah, they just need to recognize what they say and they need to keep that same energy going. So trying to keep it short.
Police white America.
Say it.
What was the question?
What do you expect from white America what do you expect from white America as our allies? Like, what do you expect them to do?
I mean, I started off by saying this and talking about the movement of the LGBTQ community. I really don't expect anything from them until we know what our agenda is. I think it's just like anything when we come into a situation where, whether it be good or bad, and personal friends or family members say, let me know what you need, that only becomes relevant once you've put in the work.
Right.
And so until we know what that means, we can't articulate that to them, and we can't expect them, because they're there saying they're allies, that we're going to get something out of that. We got to be able to go back and directly say, we need X, Y, and Z. Y'all go that way and work on that, because that then means we know what we're doing. So I don't really expect that much out of them being our allies as much as us getting our house in order and figuring out over the next 10 to 20 years. Because that's the other thing that people got to understand. We're not going to get everything out of this that we want overnight.
Right.
It's taking time, and time means time means time. Shit, I don't know how to say that
Yeah.
any other way. It means time, and you got to be in for the long haul to understand that. So I don't expect anything out of them until we know what we want and how we're going to get it done. And we don't understand that or even know it right now. So I really see them as, I was getting ready to say another curse word. I see them as a non-factor right now. And I mean that in a sincere way until we can sit in our living room, if you will, and say, all right, y'all, what we going to do? And this what we're going to, all right, we're going to hand them this. We're just not going to get anything out of that. I'm just so tired. I'm part of one thing I'll mention real quick. Part of the reason I'm so stressed out and tired is that today we started our meeting for session for the House of Representatives at 1:00, and we didn't get out of there close to 6, was because they were considering bringing forth a resolution to name Black Lives Matter as a terrorist organization in the state
Oh
of
wow.
Virginia.
Oh
And
wow.
so these are the things that I don't think people understand. So when we go to Columbus as your
It's
black rep, that's the fight that we're trying to fight, and we were able to fight it to keep it off the floor of even coming forth. But that's the type of stuff that we're talking about. I mean, they literally were getting ready to bring that forth, and we had to like stand at ease so we could get in the face of some of these folks like, you getting ready to blow this place up. So is that kind of stuff that from our leverage point that we're trying to navigate and work, and some things are coming next week where I'm going to be bringing some reps from part of the other state to address some of the stuff that we're even talking about right now. And I can't say it right now, but those of you in the media, Raven, will make sure that you know early and can be a part of that. But we're going to be announcing some things that we're working on because that's what you elected us to do, and that's respond to these kind of situations with policy.
All right, now, last but not least, I know we've been on here for a little minute, but I feel like this is real good conversation. What do y'all think we need to go from here? From this point on, like, what do you think needs to be step one of the game plan?
I guess I'll just state the obvious. We need to go straight to the nearest voting booth. We need to go straight to the polls. We need to make sure that, first of all, we need to make sure that our people are informed about who is currently in office and what decisions they have or have not made on our behalf and for our betterment. And if those that they don't meet the criteria necessary to serve as a representative for our community, then they must go. And the only way to do that is to not only use or express our right to our voices via voting, but we also need to make ourselves familiar with those people in those offices, and they should have some urge to want to be familiar with us as well, so that when we do have issues or we do have things that we feel are going on in our community, we don't feel like we're just talking to a staff of people. We want to know names and faces, and we have to be able to educate ourselves and educate each other about that. And so I think just in general, we have to go straight to the polls after this is, if this is, because it'll never be over. I don't like using the phrase that when this is all over. I don't think it's ever going to be over. It's going to be a continual fight. But first, we must go to the polls.
I would like to see us localize our movements and the things that we are concerned about. Social media has given us the privilege to be able to reach like extensive audiences, and even with the work that we do, J.Dough and Raven, today the company we work for did a nationwide summit, but every community is different. We know that too, J.Dough, when it even comes to music, when they program stations and they program stations for a regional look versus a city to city look, each city has its own struggles, each city has its own identity, each city has its own passions. And I think that we need to have that same mindset when it comes to the things that affect our community, that Cincinnati is one city, but it would be great to be able to see us find those local leaders, and local leaders don't start just in the office. They start in your home. Fathers in your home, mothers in your home, me having a conversation with my son, us taking use of the community centers and places that we have to educate the people in our neighborhood that really actually do want to know and want to learn. Even when it comes down to as simple as voting, like organizing local small things for our community so that we can affect more people. I think that we are sometimes focused so much on talking to the masses and talking to a lot of people. That's what we got a Cedric for. So we got a Kamara for, to represent us on a state level, but just us taking ownership of really being leaders ourselves in our local communities.
I agree with Raven and Trop. Before COVID, actually, Trop and I, we were working on a mental health forum. And, that was to bring mental health awareness in the Black community affecting men. And unfortunately, we had to postpone that. And, that's just one example of creating awareness in the Black community and getting that conversation started. And I agree with Raven. We need to get people out there to vote, because people are focused on the presidential elections, but we really need people's vote in all areas, whether it's local, state, federal, because we can decide the judges, who best represents our interests. And I think that after this voting cycle, it's time that we start paying attention to the candidates that best represents our needs.
First step is don't look for immediate response from elected officials, because we are elected to do what people want. And so when you try to put it in the laps of us, we can sometimes be given too much authority to do what we want or we think. And we need to kind of pause and listen to what people want and what people think. So one thing that Al Sharpton does, and he's got that old school, he's been around and he gets it and he knows, is that every Saturday, no matter what, he has a Saturday justice rally, no matter what. Right. Every Saturday at like 11 o'clock, the whole community knows in New York where he's at. He's going to be here at this time to bring people in. And what that does is, because when I talk about the movement, if you will, which again, the movement ain't changed, it's still the civil rights movement, it's what we're fighting for. You are able to invite somebody in, and you get somebody who says, because I had a friend text today who lives in New York and was like, I was just so fed up, and I seen the protests outside my house, and I just got out there and I started walking, and the energy was so overwhelming. Like, I'm in such a different place now, like I'm in. And so I say that to say, the next step, if that just means every Saturday, if it's us starting something somewhere at a location at a time, no matter what, just that repetitiveness to just keep putting it out and say, we're going to be here at this time. And we're just talking about whatever's going on. We're going to pick up somebody who didn't understand, who wants to be involved. And the more you can bring people in and rally those folks in to say, this is what's got to happen, the better. Again, earlier, Kamara talked about House Bill 680, which is getting ready to gut our right to vote in November, if you will. Only person I could get to come up from Cincinnati was Joe Mallory with the NAACP to speak against that bill. Just think if every Saturday we were putting that out there, okay, this is what's happening at the state, this was at the county, this was at the city. We could have some type of organization where folks know, okay, we got to go up here and testify for this, and then you go over here and testify for that. So let's just, and that's a simple start. Let's just come together like we're doing now. Come
just
together
open up Saturday. The conversation.
Yeah, every Saturday, if we can find somebody to let us be there every Saturday at 11 or 12, and we just stay for an hour, and we just keep putting it out, and we find people to put some advertising around that, I think that's a first start, and then we can talk about going deeper.
Most definitely. I like that idea. I appreciate y'all for y'all time and coming on here to talk about this. It's a lot of people that's going to look at this, and hopefully, I hope my goal is that a lot of people look at this and learn something, whether it's and getting inspired on what to do or ideas on how to do it, they learn something. So I appreciate y'all time and everything. But before we get up out of here, I do want y'all to tell everybody where they can follow y'all at or get in contact with y'all and everything like that. So Raven, let's start with you.
Take myself off mute. You can follow me on Instagram at _Raven RAVNJ as in I don't know John and M as in Mary. You can also add me on Facebook. That was such an old person thing to do.
That was gonna let you slide, but good.
That was such an old person thing to do. But again, I lived an 80-year-old woman, so leave me alone. And you can add me on Facebook at my first and last name, which I guess you will see here on the screen, Raven Mundy. And I have Twitter. I don't use it very much, but you can still follow me. It is the same as my Instagram at _RavenJM.
I'm telling when they can listen to you on the radio too.
Oh, and of course you can listen to me Monday through Friday from 12 to 3 on the Afternoon Experience with Emmanuel Livingston on 101.5 The Buzz of Cincinnati.
Unbelievable. All right, Kamar.
You can follow me on Instagram. It's darling_Kamara. It's such a cheesy, but
whatever.
It's my thing.
Hey, if it fits you, I'm happy for you. If you love it, then
I think
like
it does. You know, I had it from like day one. Anyway, my Facebook is Kamara Douglas, Kamara Douglas. Yep. So. And
your phone number is, because I'm quite sure somebody who wants.
I'll give you my office number.
Oh, you don't have to do all that. You don't have to. Nah, Trop.
Hi, I'm Tropicana. You can follow me on Twitter at Tropicana with a K. You can follow me on Instagram at I am Tropicana, also with a K. You can follow me on Facebook at Tropicana St. Louis with a K. Tropicana Cleveland with a K. Tropicana period with a K. And Tropicana Cincinnati with a K. You pick a city, I've been there. Tropicana, Georgia as well with a K. Real simple. And you can follow me on OnlyFans around midnight tonight. I'm playing jokes.
This do look like you was talking like this was your OnlyFans promo.
I've been practicing. I've been watching. Now I'm lying. But you can follow me on Demon Chat or Demon Time. Is it Demon Time?
Demon Time.
Middays, 10 to 3 on the Wiz.
I said.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. Hold on. My name. I spell it.
Hi, Grandpa.
Bruh, you don't know your Instagram, you don't know your Facebook, your Instagram, how they can email you something.
My computer's about to die. I'm on 0%. Cedric Denton with an S. Cedric, Cedrick. Just Google, you'll find all of it. I got it all. I'm through with y'all anyway. I gotta go to bed.
Instagram at Voted Denton. So we out. Till next time. I'll holler at y'all. Y'all be safe.